So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Benjamin. So I'm a business analyst at Odoo for no more than 3 years. And I'm gonna show you how you can import and export data from Odoo, give you some tips, some tricks. So I will simply import simple data in this database, show you how you can export data, show you how you can update data thanks to the import and export function. So this is a functional demonstration. I will briefly start with an import and export explanation, and then I will switch to the demonstration. And I will end with a small conclusion, and then we'll have time to answer your question. So for the data import, when do you use a data import? It can be used in three different cases. So first case, when you start working with Odoo, so you start using Odoo as your first application. So you already use another application, another software, and you want to switch to Odoo. So you have to input your data in the system. And you can do it with a data import. It's also used to update records. So you already have some records in the database, a product list, for example, that you want to update. You can do it with an import. And you can, of course, insert new records in the database. So, for example, new products, but also new customers, and so on. So that's three cases where you can use import in the system. What happens with the import? So the first step is to check your file structure, because with Odoo you can use CSV and XLS file to import data, but it's important, of course, that your file is the same, and is good to be imported. So we have to check the structure of the file. That's the first thing you can do. And then you can test and preview your import in the system. So you can upload your file and check what are the fields you want to import, if the column A is imported in the right field, and so on. And then you can validate your import just by clicking on a button, and Odoo will let you know if the import is valid or not. And these are already some tips I can give you to import data. So the best way to do when you want to import a new data and a new record is to first create a manual record in the database. So you first create a product in the database with all the fields you want to import, and then you can export it. So you'll get the structure file, the file which is structured correctly to import it after. The second tips is that you can use IDs or name to create link between objects, but it's better to use IDs, because, for example, if you want to make a link between one model and another model, so for example, on the sale order, if you want to import sale order, for example, you have to make a link between the sale order and the customer. You can indeed do it if the customer is already recorded and already exists in your database. You can use his name, but it's always better to use the ID of the customer, because, as you know, the ID is unique. So you cannot make mistake if you use IDs. And of course, another tips when you import data is that you can generate IDs by yourself. So when you first create a data in the database, you can give it an ID. If you already use an ID in another system, you can keep the same ID to keep it in Odoo. Okay. And of course, when you update the data, that's what I said. When you export the data, Odoo also exports the ID automatically. Even if you don't want to export it, it exports the ID. And so if you want to update the data, you just have to import again the record with the ID and the updated data. So Odoo knows that he doesn't have to create a new record, but it just has to update an existing one. For the export, so when can you use an export? If you want to consolidate data between, so you have two different software, you have two different systems, and you want to consolidate data in one Excel. So either if you use Odoo, you want to consolidate data from your customer model and your invoice model. So you want to take information from the customer form and from the invoice. You can use it, and you can export two different files to consolidate the data, but also with data coming from another software. You can use it to analyze data, to make advanced report into Excel. As you know, Excel is quite advanced, so you can export data and make analysis in Excel. Yes, and of course, as I said, it's you can use the export to update already existing data or to get a file which is correctly structured. Yeah, when you export, but I'm gonna show it in the demonstration, you have to choose first the export type. So if it's an export compatible import, or if you want to export all data, I'm gonna show it to you just after. You can select the format, CSV or Excel, and you can of course save a list. If you want to export every time the same list, you can just save it, so you don't have to select all the fields again and again. You just have to save the list. Yeah, about the tips I can give you, so that's what I already explained. You can create your own ID, specify IDs to update. I already explained it. Yes, you can use IDs instead of name, and you can export a test record to get a file structure. That's what I explained. For the export, you can save your list. Yes, and with the export type, that's what I will show you after. With the export type, not the export compatible import type, but the other one, so export all data type, you can make link between models. So you can, if you are in the invoice, if you want to export an invoice, you can make a link between invoice, but you can get the customer name, for example, and even the customer country and so on. So you can make link between model, okay? Yes, and it's easier to export directly into Excel. And so you can choose an XLS type and not a CSV. But I'm just gonna switch to the demonstration. So the first use case I want to show you is that you can import a new file to create data. So as you can see, I have only 2 contacts in my fresh new database, and I have one Excel file there, import customer, okay, where you can see that I have a lot of customers, so I don't want to create them manually. I'm just gonna use the import function there. I click on import. I just need to load my file, open it. So Odoo will trigger the file and is gonna load it. So I can see all the field that I have in my yes. I don't know why it's not loading. Sorry. Oh. Yeah, I will refresh maybe. Yeah. So I import the customer file. Yeah, I can quickly switch to the run bot. It's not a big deal. Sorry. Up. So it's not important. I can switch to the run bot. Yeah, if I close the file, it will be better. Do you think? I'm not sure. Up. Not sure it will. Yeah, you're right. So it's better if we close the file. So as you can see, Odoo suggests me the fields that are in my file. So there I imported IDs. Name is a company, but if the contact is a customer or not. But even if I made mistake in my file, I can easily change what I want to import there by clicking on the field there. And for example, I want to use this column to see if it's a supplier or not. So I can start typing what I need. Supplier, yes, it's still loading. My database is not quite yes, it's a little bit slow, but I can change my field there. So if I want to import another field, I can. Okay, so I'm gonna try to import this one. So I'm just gonna click on the button test import, and Odoo will check if my import is compatible. There you will see that I have a few mistakes in my file, and Odoo will give you the mistakes you have and the error you get in your file. So for example, at the row 12 in my file, I made a mistake. Why? Because there in the row 12, you can see that the field is a company. It should be 1 or 0 or true or false, but it's not correct. So I can simply change it. And I have other error there. For example, yes, in the field related companies, at row 13, I have one mistake, and at row 34, yes, I have another mistake. Why? Because the ID related to my partner, so that's what I explained. I want to import a customer related to a company, but it's a link to another model, so I need to use IDs, it's better. But Odoo does not recognize the ID 40. Why? Because it's not included in my file, so I'm just gonna go to the line 30 and just remove the ID 40, and the same at the line 44. I'm gonna save my file, close it. In this case, load again my file or reload it. I think it's gonna work. Sorry, yeah, I maybe have to refresh the screen. I'm gonna load the file, import customer, which has just been updated. It's loading. Yeah, I will test it again. And it should be, everything seems valid. So it means that I can import data, okay? So I can just click on the button import, and you'll see that my data are imported in the system. So I have no some contacts in my database, okay? I could do the same with other models. So product, customer are the easiest one because it's just some information. Some other models are more difficult to import, like for example, sale order or invoices, because it depends, there is a flow behind the invoices. So when you import an invoice, for example, it's imported in a draft status, and we need a script behind the import to make the validation and the payment of the invoice. We can do it, but not with an import like that. We can make a script, a technical script to make the flow behind the import. That's also possible, but I cannot show you right now. Okay, the second case, so I'm just gonna import some other products. I think I have a file with some issues as well, yes. Like, for example, so I want to import this product list. You can see that I have also a mistake. I will just correct it right now. And there, that some of the names are empty. Of course, I cannot have I cannot import a product without name because this field is required. So that's another type of mistake we could do. But I can just delete those lines. So my import will be compatible. I think that's okay. No, the line 5 again. Okay. So now I save my file, I close it, and then I'm gonna just import my product. And then, yeah, I'm loading the file. It should be okay. I test the import. That should be okay. I can also directly import it. That will be the same result without the test. So if I directly click on the import button, it directly imports all the data in the system. Okay. So there I will have new products in the database. But let's say that, okay, I don't know, 6 months later, or I don't know, you want to change the prices of the product. So what you can do is just update the product. So you go to the list view. You can of course filter the product you want to update. But let's imagine that I want to update all my products, and I can just select all of them and export them. And there, that's the export that I explained you before. So the goal of the export first is to select the export type. So if I want to select an export, to have an export which is compatible with the import, so I mean a file that I can use to update my data, or an export all data. And if I export all data, I have more options. For example, I can get the company name or the company, I don't know, bank accounts and so on. I can get the company bank account number and so on. So I have more options, and that's where I can make deeper analysis. But I will select the import compatible export, and then I can just select the field. So I will just select the price, the public price, and that's it. I think that's it. Sales price. I don't remember which one is it. And there I can also select the export format. So either CSV or Excel. Okay. I'm gonna choose Excel, and another option is, of course, to save the field list. So if I don't want to make it again later, I can just save my list, export product. So I'll be able to use it again in the future. You see that it's no registered. It's no a list that it is saved, and I can use it later. So I'm gonna export this list. And you'll see, I can save it and I can open it. Now I have a price, a product, and you can see that when I export, so I've just selected the price, the list price, and Odoo also included the ID. That will allow me to use the same ID to update the same record and not to create an existing one. So for example, there I will just change the list price because this is this. I will make, I will increase my price, let's say. Yes, sorry. Yeah, by 11, it's not important. That's not the goal. Okay. And I need to change, of course, the title. There, I can just switch it there to say to Odoo that I want to import the column D instead of the column C. If I don't put a title in my column, Odoo will not import it. And now I close the file. So I have right now 45 products. I can import one, load the file again. I will load the file that I just updated. No, it's not this one, sorry. It's in the download, of course. Yes, this one. And as you can see, the column without title is not imported, and it's in red. So I see that there is no title, there is nothing. Of course, I can choose what I want to import. For example, I can make it as the cost price if I want. Okay. I can decide not to import this column as well, but it's important to use to import the ID, so I know that Odoo will update, is gonna update my product. I'm gonna test the import. Everything seems valid, okay. And now it's imported, and I still have 45 products, so I see that the product have been updated. And for example, my first product, the price has been updated, so it is 10 times higher, and the cost price has been imported. So my record has been modified, and now I have not created a new data in my database. Okay, so yes, as a conclusion, we've seen that we can use data export and import in many cases. It seems quite useful. There, I've just shown you this with a small number of data, but of course we can export and import a lot of data, depending on the, yes, it depends how many, but we can go, yes, if for example you have 1,100 data, you cannot import it in one file, sorry, you have to split it between different files, but depending on the number of columns you have in your file, yes, you can, I mean 2,000 data in the same file should be enough. And of course, if you need more data, you have to split your file or to use scripts as explained before. So technical scripts that you can use to import data. And maybe if you have a lot of data, it will be easier. But in this case, it could be useful to import, some data in your system or to update some. So that's all from my side. If you have any question, I will be, glad to answer them. So feel free to ask questions, and thank you for your attention.